you were laying down, Libby. I'm sorry. Give me just a minute. And you said that was Ryan and Zach.
Yes, I see Zach's name for sure. I haven't spotted Ryan's yet.
Okay, give me just a moment.
Hey, BJ, this is Zach McGuire. If you need
Hey
me
there.
to chime in at any point, please let me know.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Zach, for being here.
I see Ryan as well.
Oh, great.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Oh, okay, there. Thanks, Ryan. Great.
Okay, perfect.
Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Libby. I appreciate that warm introduction. So we now have Zach and Ryan here representing as co-chairs for the Clintonville Green Spot Committee. And Commissioner Weatherholt has forwarded us the complete roster in full. Would you like to say anything on behalf of the slate that you've chosen to represent us in the formal standing committee of the Green Spot Committee? Zach or Ryan, please chime in.
Ryan, do you want to say anything, or would you want me to take the lead on this one?
I'm having some mute issues. So, yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you to Libby. I think your leadership on this from a Green Spot perspective has been really inspiring, and I'm really excited. Just to clear things up, I'm a lifetime Clintonville resident, born in Riverside Hospital, grew up on East Tulane Road, Clinton Elementary, Ridgeview, Whetstone High School. So very excited to represent the community in this capacity. Currently work for the Columbus Partnership on the Smart Columbus Initiative. I'm a sustainability professional focused on clean energy. I'm really excited to bring my background, expertise, and passion to the position to further the Green Spot program here in Clintonville, and look for new opportunities to where we can engage the community and create some further impact from a sustainability perspective through this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Zach, very much. You've got some big shoes to follow. And Ryan, do you ditto everything that Zach says?
Yeah, I'll ditto, and just for a little color, I've been part of Green Spot outside of just this neighborhood effort for quite a while, and I'm a big fan of the work that's been done by the city on this. And it's really cool that we've stepped up as a neighborhood. There's not very many Green Spot neighborhoods, so we're one of a select few, and we've done a great job. The work that we've done is more than was required to achieve the certification for the neighborhood. So we feel really good about it, and there's still a lot more to do. So.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I know that you've been a very enthusiastic member of that committee, having seen you in action up close and personal, and have engaged with you on many of those initiatives. So thank you so much to continue to serve and step up to the plate and co-chair this committee. We appreciate you. All right. With all that said, do we have a motion on the floor to vote to accept the slate of the Clintonville Green Spot Committee slate?
I move.
Second?
I'll second it.
Shall we vote? District 1.
Yes.
District 2. District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9 votes as an approval to accept this enthusiastic, well-proven track record slate. Thank you so much for serving. Thanks for being here, Ryan and Zach. We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Okay. Do we have Chair Ann Heckner here from the Election Committee? Not that she's required to be here, but I always like to give the chairs an opportunity to present their slate. So we do have the standing slate with Jan Patton, Melissa Dahl, and Janice Countaway now serving. Jan Patton and Melissa Dahl have served on the committee. Janice Countaway, I believe, replaces Kari Ingen, who resigned as a member when I was up for reelection this past spring. So dutifully, she was obligated to resign because of my involvement for any conflict of interest. And I believe Janice Countaway replaced her. So we have 2 alums and we have 1 newbie on the election committee. Is there anything still withstanding that would prevent us from voting to accept this slate as presented by Chairman Heckner? Do we have a motion on the floor to vote to accept this slate?
I
I
move we
move.
accept. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, David. I'll
Sorry.
second it.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right. We have a simultaneous motion with a second in there. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and call roll. District 1,
Yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7.
Abstain.
Abstain? Was that an abstention?
Yes.
Thank you. District 8
Yes.
and District 9 too shall vote for a very enthusiastic yes because of their hard work and having to carry this through with a special election run simultaneously with not under the easiest of circumstances. They've really proven their worth to this commission. So I enthusiastically vote yes. Okay, we shall move on to the Historic Building Committee. I hand it to you, Commissioner Garrison.
Thanks. Not a lot going on with the Historic Building Committee, and I don't have a roster of dedicated 100% in individuals that is confirmed. So as of right now, the only element on the roster would be myself as chair, looking towards getting more involvement going forward.
I understand that concern. It's been a very difficult time. But I understand that you're probably, have some impending tasks to do behind the scenes that maybe does not, maybe not involve the concert effort of a committee. I know that you've been working to try to digitize some of the photo journaling that Nancy Kuehl had gathered and actually has a photo archive. And I know that that's been an impending task that we've been trying to work on. So keep up the good work. And if we need to treat your committee with some fluidity and maybe present, as we generate interest, we can talk about that and cross that bridge when we get to it, Jim. So thank you.
I think I appreciate that. And I think that, the goal would be in the short term with absence of larger manpower. I acknowledge and thank all of the work that was done previous to my involvement. It's very helpful. Then also continuing on, I think that it exposes some of the shortcomings of how the community develops and how there's a potential pitfall when there is absence of keeping things up to date. So the goal is to almost make things be autonomous and able to be a reference material. And that's kind of where we're going in terms of digitizing and moving forward. Online maps, reference materials, things that are always pointing to trying to eliminate the middleman, so to speak, in terms of researching history, researching information, and making it easier for everyone to use.
Yeah, I would even encourage you to engage Commissioner Pfeiffer with some of his tech savviness. That might be a worthwhile venture to engage him as well. So we appreciate your efforts. Keep that growing. And we know that this has been a tough one to grow, and the lack of interest is probably just because this is a very hands-on committee, and we've kind of been stifled by the COVID-19. So just keep up the good work, keep that trajectory and the enthusiasm moving, and we'll look forward to seeing you build that committee.
Thank you.
So I guess we don't have to approve a slate of one. Do I have a motion on the floor that we'd like to vote to accept a slate of one, the acting chair? Or do we just pass on this vote?
I think it's your prerogative according to the bylaws to appoint the chair. And I think that that is all that's necessary at this point.
Okay, thank you for that affirmation, Commissioner Weatherholt. I appreciate that. Then we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. We will, let's see, we'll go to commissioner introductions and updates. Let's limit our district updates to 1 minute. We'll begin with District 1.
I've had a few people reach out to me to point out some of the graffiti which is occurring in South Clintonville. So I'm going to work with the city to see if we can get some of that cleaned up, and also reach out to some of the property owners to see if they need help with the cleanup, or whether they can undertake the cleanup on their own. It's just something I think maybe that's just been slowly building up here a little bit. I also want to reach out to the city. They've been taking care of tagging on the Indianola viaduct, but unfortunately, when they take care of the tagging, they repaint the bridge with the wrong color paint. So I think it actually maybe points. It might look worse after the cleanup than before. So we have some work on the bridge. There's also a little bit of tagging at Portal Park, which, although it's not in my district per se, it is something that our neighborhood association takes care of on a volunteer basis to do maintenance and upkeep on the park. So we're going to see if the recreation department will work with us something like cleanup on that. And then BJ forwarded me a voicemail just I think today from a resident on Adams about a problem with their water line, and there was some replacement work that happened about a year ago. So I'll follow up with them to see if I can't help kind of mediate the discussion they're having with the city about their water line. But other than that, District 1 soldiers on.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Votero. We appreciate that. I did receive an update from District 2 in reference to, in lieu of Brian's absence. I'll go ahead and read his statement. Let's see. He says, the only update I have for District 2 is that there has been work along the western bank of the Olentangy River along Sly Run, and the Ohio Health property that has invasive species were being removed, and new native species will be planted in their place. Invasive species, he has in quotation marks, were only removed along the city property lines. There remains invasive species along the western bank that is county property. Residents are concerned as this could lead to further erosion of the riverbank, increased light pollution from the Ohio Health building, and the view of the parking lot instead of a forest. I apologize to everyone for my absence, and I hope that everybody has a great Labor Day. So I think I can share some of his concerns when it comes to the demarcation between city maintenance, as District 9 mirrors that, and that we have township property, which is county, we have city property, and we have state property. So anywhere in District 9, you can see a demarcation of how things like that are maintained dramatically differently. So I share his concern, and that might be worth following up with the county. So we'll see if we can work with Commissioner Pfeiffer and probably improving that situation a little bit. We'll move on to District 3. You're on mute.
There we go. Okay. Are we having anything from planning and development? So I just wanted to say that this Wednesday, the utility boxes will be installed along High Street, 5 of them, and we're all very excited on that committee to have that being done. So if you're out and about on Wednesday and you see people doing something with one of the utility boxes along there, that's what's happening. And I got a memo about the Ohio Community Wildlife Cooperative Virtual Conference, which is in November, which I think sounds pretty interesting. And I haven't gotten it up on my Facebook yet, but I know some of my residents will be interested in it. And this came from a District 8 person, so I will also send it on maybe Jim, that you might already know about this, but anyhow, it'll all, because the person lives in your district, but that'll be something that I think we'll all be interested in hearing about. That's all I've got.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Weatherholt. We'll move on to District 4. Please be reminded to unmute yourself. District.
Okay, I think I am on now, right?
There you go.
Okay, so in District 4, we're continuing with our, in year 3, I guess, of the prairie restoration at Whetstone. And last year we had our first annual kind of prairie walkthrough environmental day with prairie tours and identifications of all the wildflowers there. And Parks and Rec is daring enough to do it again this year in a distance format. There are spaces for both volunteers and attendees. Last year was a kid-friendly event, and it will be this year as well. There'll be people, volunteers harvesting seeds for the seed bank, and there'll be volunteers giving tours of the prairie and helping people with plant identification. And that is Saturday morning, September 19th from 9 to 12. And you can register online as either a volunteer or as an attendee. And I've sent the information to Ty, so he should be posting it on the website. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Minister. We appreciate it. All right, we are to District 5.
Hi, everyone. Brittany Bolton with District 5. I recently had a resident on Fallis Road reach out with concern about the number of mosquitoes that she had in her yard. I know that the vector control program manager had reached out to the commission, and we've posted some information on the website. He had shared his email address, so I contacted him directly about this resident, and he has offered to come out or send his team out to review as necessary. Just a reminder too, I think, for everyone about things that I think a lot of us have heard before around emptying standing water, bird baths, rain barrels, gutters, and just doing everything we can to do prevention whenever possible. In light of the Chamber of Commerce's closing, which I know was discussed last month, I have started to do outreach to the businesses in District 5. So just kind of checking in with folks and seeing if there's anything that we can do to be helpful as they navigate the challenges of this year. One of my neighbors on the 400 block of Chatham Road has some concern about the integrity of the curbs here. So she has started submitting some 311 requests around that. And I am just going to try to help her navigate that process and kind of hear her out and see if there's anything we can do. And then finally, I guess this might be in conflict with the Whetstone Tour Day, but on Saturday, September 19th from 9 to 11, I'm going to have a meet and greet just in my front yard at 475 Chatham for District 5 residents or anybody else that wants to stop by. So I will have coffee, I will bake things, I will wear a mask. Please feel free to come. And if you're a District 5 resident in particular listening tonight, I would love to meet you in person. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. And it's good to see you. We missed you last month.
Happy to be back.
All right, we are now to District 6. Commissioner Carpenter.
Thank you. All quiet's on the Western Front. I will just, and maybe Libby can chime in too, getting some emails. I'm a member of the Clintonville Women's Club, and I encourage all women or even men on the auxiliary to join. We are looking and hoping to get some donations because during this time, we haven't been able to meet regularly, and some of those funding with the meetings and whatnot funds the building maintenance and whatnot, and it's all self-maintained. Is that right, Libby? We're all self-maintained. So if anyone has some extra change running around there and wants to donate to the building fund, we certainly would appreciate that. This is something that is the heart of Clintonville and has been really the backbone of the community for a very long time.
Thank you. I think that's a worthwhile cause. I know that for years, the North Area Real Estate Association has met there, and we experienced the chili cook-off there, and I think it's also an unintended consequence of the dismantling of the Clintonville Chamber of Commerce, because I know they had their luncheons there. So you can see that trickle down effect has started to take hold already. So I'll see if I can throw some coinage in the bucket for you. All right, let's move on to District 7.
District 7, I don't have anything to report. I would ask if, is there a space in the agenda to discuss old business? I'd like to revisit the how we do the committees.
We might. We have a pretty full agenda. That's why I'm moving along pretty quickly to stay on task. We'll make that a point of order in the last 10 minutes where we have public comments and open discussion. So let's try to move this along so that we can carve some time for that discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. District 8.
Hi, Jim Garrison, District 8. I have a lot of stuff to discuss, so I'll go pretty quick. I think since the last meeting, Dan Sensenbrenner, who used to be on the Clintonville Chamber of Commerce, had reached out to me, and I had started to reach out to local businesses. Specifically, this was, I think, Malcolm, who owns Beachwold Hardware. He connected us together, and so just kind of ongoing conversations, similar to what Commissioner Bolton had said about talking with local businesses, seeing if we can reestablish some sort of entity that is a pro-business and growth for the community, and also keep an eye on, listen to the businesses and see what they can really benefit from an organization and almost reimagining things. So that's kind of an ongoing conversation that I don't have too much to report aside from talking with former member Nick Curtis and Dan Sensenbrenner. There has been a lot of yard signs being either stolen or vandalized in District 8, and I think it's also similar across other districts as well. And that is something that is a concern for a lot of people. They think it's pretty petty, obviously. Everyone's entitled to what their opinions are, whether it's political or social movements. So if anyone, can pass the word around, we just need to be respectful of people's property, but also keep an eye out in your area to see if things are being vandalized or stolen, and try to raise awareness with neighbors that might not be on social media. On that same kind of topic, I have had a conversation with Ring, and they produce cameras, doorbell cameras, security cameras, and other things. And they have a community program where they give discounts to communities, organizations like homeowners associations, etc. And they're interested in making sure that anyone who wants their product can get a discount for a promotional period with a code. Anyone that's in the 43214 and 43202 area codes or zip codes. So that's just something that's going on. I'm also kind of talking with Nest. I'm not necessarily promoting any of these. I'm just trying to link the residents who have expressed interest in that resource. Also on the security front, several people have reported gunshots occasionally over the last few weeks. in a conversation with Catherine Cull, the kind of the protocol, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, is that even if you hear gunshots, report them to the non-emergency number, because that will allow the police to corroborate stories or give more information if they receive reports or have some sort of criminal investigation. And then last is on the topic of blueprint and rain gardens. Morris Dominion is having a follow-up meeting with residents on an online Zoom call for that. And so that is scheduled for September 24th. If you need more information and you're in the Morris Dominion area, it's just for that area, specific items there, you can reach out to me, cacdistrict8@gmail.com. And that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrison. We appreciate that. District 9, everything's been uneventful. Most people have enjoyed the deer population boom. You know, we have a regular herd that traffics through our backyards, and we just have been we've been doing just fine. No events happening in the park like Family Film Fridays, so we've kind of had a void to fill in that. But just, you know, lots of people being neighborly, lots of people out walking their dogs, pushing strollers, out walking in evenings, and taking a little extra time to say, you know, to wave hello and say hi from afar. Other than that, everything's fine in District 9. Okay, we shall move on, conclude with commissioner introductions and updates, and we'll go on to, I'll pass the torch to Commissioner Bolton, who's our secretary, for consideration of prior meeting minutes.
On August 27th, you all should have received a PDF copy of the minutes from our August meeting. I've received suggested edits from a few members, and I think that we should be ready to make a motion for these to be approved.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the most recent draft after suggested edits were taken under consideration for the August minutes.
I move.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, District 1. District 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7, District,
Yes.
thank you, District 8,
Yes.
and District 9 too shall vote to accept the most recent version of the minutes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you getting caught up to speed and preparing those minutes in lieu of your absence. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll hand that over to Commissioner Carpenter, our treasurer, for your report. Commissioner Carpenter.
Nothing more to report since the last time. I'll just remind everybody with any kind of reimbursement to make sure that you're using the new forms that I believe I sent out prior to the last meeting. If you don't have those, if they've been deleted, they're lost in your inbox, whatever they may be, just let me know and I will send those to you. The new form mimics the reporting that I have to do every 6 months, and kind of gives an explanation as to each category in the reports. Also, I'll remind you that sales tax is not reimbursable. We actually have a waiver that can be used for any kind of purchases that encompass sales tax. So before you make those purchases, let me know. And if you don't have the waiver from what was sent out, I'll be happy to provide you with a copy.
Thank you so much for that. And I appreciate the revision on the form. That really helps. And have you found that with the reimbursement reminders that you're getting those more frequently so that bookkeeping creates a little bit more ease?
Well, so far the only reimbursement I've gotten is from Stephen for stamps, and that's usually he's my frequent flyer as far as reimbursements. But yes, I think that in the long run it's going to be very, very helpful, because that way we can stay on top of the money that we have available to us, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for that report. Any questions for Commissioner Carpenter? Okay, we shall move on. It is 7:35. So far, we're only 5 minutes behind schedule, and we'll hand it over to Catherine Call, our neighborhood community liaison.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Garrison did a great job. He already reported on some of the things that I brought up. So thank you, Jim, for covering those important topics. This first announcement is just for area commissioners. I sent you guys an email, I believe, last week. Our next training is Saturday, September 12th from 9 to 11 a.m. This is presented through WebEx, and this is going to be on transparency and records. I highly recommend that all the secretaries for every area commission attend this training, and registration for this training Wednesday, September 9th. For some reason, if you did not receive this email from myself or my supervisor, please just shoot me a private message and I'll resend that over to you. Columbus City School starts next week, and as they begin their school year virtual, every single student will be receiving a Chromebook. And I also shared in an email, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, that Columbus City Schools will be providing meals for any child under the age of 18. This includes breakfast and lunch. And within that email also included the pickup sites for those meals. This is also included on the columbus.gov website. So if you have questions about specific schools and where you can pick up meals, that is on the website, but I can also share that again. Thank you, Jim, for bringing up the stolen political signs. I received probably 3 or 4 phone calls this week, and they were all Clintonville residents. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do. Police are aware of the matter, but it's just hard to try and catch or prosecute these people. So I encourage people, I've just started putting my own political signs in my window to avoid signs being stolen. And finally, starting Tuesday, September 8th, Rec and Parks Department will expand its programming and age served. The expanded services include activities from everyone from preschool to senior citizens. The Columbus Cultural Arts Center, fitness centers, and Columbus Aquatic Centers are now all reopening their doors. Hey, Jordan. And those are all of my updates.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you, Catherine. Good to see you. Thank you so much for keeping us in the loop. I know that you've prefaced a couple of your emails, information overload, but too much information is always better than not enough. Okay, we'll go ahead and conclude that. We'll hand it over to, I believe we've got somebody. Catherine, did you want to go ahead and announce who's here speaking with the City of Columbus for the electric aggregation and the Civilian Review Board?
I don't know if I see anyone here on for electric aggregation. Oh, Jen, I'm sorry. So here's Jen that's going to speak about electric aggregation. After that, we have Stephen Sayer from the mayor's office.
Okay, thank you for doing that, Jen, and I apologize. We were given the names Nick Bankston and Aaron Beck, so I apologize. So you go ahead and take it away, Jen.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I know Aaron is speaking to another area commission, and I've been talking to area commissions for the past 2 weeks, but it's good to be here tonight as I'm a Clintonville resident on West Como, and have lived on West Como in 2 different homes over the last decade. So good evening. And before I had kids, I used to go to all the CAC meetings. Now they're locked downstairs while I'm upstairs doing this. So thanks again for the opportunity. Tonight I'm here to speak about community choice aggregation And we actually now have an issue number. So it will be issue 1 that will appear on the November 3rd ballot. For those of you who are not familiar with community choice aggregation, it's the ability for communities, units of government, to aggregate all of their residents and small business owners to provide a more competitive cost of electricity. And in our case, in Columbus, the decision has been made to move forward on a 100% clean energy aggregation. There are over 400 electric aggregations in the state of Ohio. I believe that Columbus will be the last big city to move forward on this, but there are a number of counties and townships, cities, et cetera, who have already done this. And so the way that just to take a quick step back, the way that kind of electricity works is you have your transmission and distribution provider. So that's AEP Ohio. They will continue to remain your distribution provider. So you will continue to get a bill in the mail from AEP. Should this pass and we move forward and the residents agree to move forward on this, on the generation line on your bill, that will just look a little different. So the reason that we are moving forward with this in the, it's something that honestly, the community and citizens in Columbus have been pushing for a really, really long time. And during the Coleman administration, they had looked at it, they had started reviewing it. And then Mayor Ginther in his State of the City this year said, okay, we're going to move forward and do this. City Council has now passed a resolution to put it on the ballot. And now we are out educating folks and talking about what this will mean. The decision has been made to move forward with 100% clean energy from the state of Ohio. So this means a significant amount of jobs and opportunities here, both locally in the central Ohio area, as well as the state of Ohio. But again, nothing will change. When you flip on the lights, it'll be just like it is right now. But if you vote yes, and enough citizens, if we have a majority that vote yes on issue 1 in November, what we're looking at would be June of 2021, that program would start running. So kind of the big push behind it is as many communities are doing, and many Fortune 500 companies and school districts and many even small companies are choosing to go 100% clean to try to make a difference in lowering our carbon emissions and other criterion pollutants. So that's kind of the push behind it, as well as creating a significant amount of jobs. And we just had a hearing, Columbus City Council just had a hearing yesterday evening, took comments and testimony from residents and stakeholders. That's the big picture. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've been working on these issues for over 20 years, so I'm very familiar, and I have a bunch of information too that I can send to the chair, or whatever's the best way to get this information to you. We have a fact sheet and a 1-pager, and then some additional information on the job creation aspects of this.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the transmission and the distribution are still managed through AEP, which will always get an AEP bill. So that kind of wears the mask for these initiatives. So does the city of Columbus, I mean, are they in fact acting as a utility broker?
So they are allowing for community residents. So when you vote on issue 1, you are allowing the city to work with a broker to then hire a preferred energy supplier. So in effect, yes. If you do not want to, if you decide that you want to opt out, you can do so immediately, either by making a phone call, sending an email, and then every single person who's automatically opted into the program will also receive a notice from AEP with a form saying, if you want to opt out, just fill this out and send it back. And you can opt out at any time. And if you've already shopped, so if you've already made a decision to choose another energy supplier for various reasons people do, because it's cheaper or because maybe you've already wanted clean energy, you will automatically already be opted out of the program. If you want to opt in at a later date, you can do so. But yes, that's a good question. And that is in fact what we're doing.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Does anyone else have a question for Jen?
I have one quick question, and forgive me if you mentioned it, but I may have missed it. But is the aggregator in this program AEP, or is it a third party or someone with the city?
So the preferred energy supply, so the
I think we have a freeze frame. I don't think she's pensive. I think we have a.
I rescind my question.
I think she's a very pensive person. I think we have her. Okay. I think we may have lost her. Let's make note of that question, Commissioner Garrison, and let's follow up with an email to her. Okay.
Sure, I'll handle it.
All right. Fortunately, I just want to clarify, we did conclude her presentation and we're at the Q&A segment. Therefore, we do not have to bring this meeting to a halt. Had that been during her presentation, we would have to stop this meeting. So fortunately, it was not during the presentation. Commissioner Weatherholt, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
I thought I had, thank you. I was wondering if people had other questions, could they put it in the chat section, and then we could send it on to her and she could.
Absolutely. I think the chat lounge will accommodate any questions that you might have, or you can simply email me or use the general commissioners at. Sorry, I always have to remind myself what our email is. Clinton. Oh boy.
Commissioners at Clintonville area.
Agenda. It's at the top of the agenda. Commissioners at ClintonvilleAreaCommission.org. So if you have any questions and follow up with regard to the Jen Lynch's presentation on the energy aggregation, please follow up with an email to commissioners@ClintonvilleAreaCommission.org, or simply type in your chat, type your question into the chat area. Oh, I think we've got her coming back in. We do. Hi, Jen. Hi. Okay, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry about that. I think my kids were playing Minecraft and it bumped me off.
All right.
Okay. Stop what you're doing. So I apologize. And someone was asking a question about the supplier, and I was responding. So I don't know when I got bumped off, but I was responding.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had asked if there was a specific person who was the aggregator or the deal maker of this, and whether that was AEP or a city official or some third party.
Sure. Yep. So that is actually who I work with, which is Trey Bell. So the way that these typically work with communities is that the community will hire a broker, an independent third party. And so they did work with the city. So there's a city team with the utilities department, and there's the sustainability director and a few others that were a part of the process in developing the RFP. But there is a third party broker who acts as a consultant for the city to sort of make sure that because the city, typically doesn't do these kinds of deals. And so the energy broker, this is something that they do. And at least this specific broker has done over 150 programs.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jen, may I trouble you to follow up with an email to all of us, given our commission, our email is commissioners@clintonvilleareacommission.org. If you could please just follow up with any additional information that you might be able to disseminate today, tomorrow, or otherwise, and make yourself available to our questions. We'd love to hear from you. Commissioners@clintonvilleareacommission.org.
You got it. I will do that right now. And thank you for the opportunity to join you this evening.
Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for coming back when technology failed.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay, and we've got Stephen. Who is here?
Hello. Hello. Sorry.
Oh, there you are, Eric.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, this is Stephen Sayre with the City of Columbus. Are we ready to move on to this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Chair and commissioners, thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak this evening. Jen was here to talk about issue 1 that is on the ballot in November, and I am here to speak for a few minutes about issue 2, which will this November allow Columbus voters to weigh in to amend our city's charter to establish a civilian police review board and create an independent inspector general for the Columbus Division of Police to conduct independent investigations into accusations of police misconduct. The amendment will allow Columbus voters the choice to voice their opinion on this form of police reform, to establish the framework for a civilian review board that would have subpoena powers, authority to conduct independent investigations, and recommend disciplinary action. And this would be fully staffed and funded as part of the charter amendment. The charter amendment will provide the foundation for the civilian review board work group's recommendations on the powers, form, and function of our civilian review board, and help ensure those recommendations are implemented with the full support of Columbus residents. That group is meeting currently. I believe they've had 3 meetings to date and are continuing to meet over the coming weeks. What this amendment will not do is unnecessarily limit the authority of the review board in the future. This will serve as the starting point for the establishment of the board to be seated before the end of the year. The amendment will help establish the pillars for a successful review board, borrowing from best practices from around the country, while allowing our community to shape a board that reflects our city's values. Details like the number of board members, how they are appointed, how many terms they will serve, and important functions like how investigations will be conducted, disciplinary recommendations handed out, will all be shaped by the Civilian Review Board work group with community input. And like I said, that group has been meeting over the past several weeks, and we'll have more meetings over the coming weeks. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Just Stephen, if I may ask, can you please follow up just so that we are, just so that we have your contact information, who you represent, and who we might be able to contact with any kind of questions in the future. Please email us at commissioners@clintonvilleareacommission.org so that we all have your contact information and can call upon you as our point of contact about any questions with regard to this topic and issue 2.
Thank you very much. I will.
Commissioner Weatherholt, do you have a quick question?
Well, yeah. What happens with this amendment, or let's say, how does the negotiations with the police union, I guess that's what I should call it, how will that affect this charter amendment?
So the charter amendment, this is a great question. There are elements of the charter amendment that would still need to be negotiated after passage with the police union. Not all of them. We could still seat the board, but when it comes to things like subpoena power and the disciplinary recommendations, those are elements, the inspector general, some of the powers there, those are elements that would still need to be negotiated with the FOP. We could establish the board, but the full extent of the recommendations some of them would need to be negotiated with the FOP.
Okay, I don't see any other hands in the air except for Commissioner Bolton.
Thank you. Can I ask who were the stakeholders that were involved with drafting the language that will be on the ballot?
So we've, this is something that we've been hearing from the community from honestly for years. This was a recommendation of the Safety Advisory Commission in their final report that was delivered earlier this year in January, right before the COVID epidemic began. So this is something that we've been getting community feedback from, frankly, for years. And the mayor and council worked on the legislation that was used to place this on the November ballot. And we currently have the Civilian Review Board Working Group, which will, like I said, that'll really shape a lot of the form, function, how members of the group are appointed, what are the terms, what best practices are we taking from successful boards around the country, and what are we looking at that we're learning from, maybe mistakes that other cities have made with their boards. And so that work is continuing. That is part of why, with our charter amendment, the funding is included in the charter amendment, because what's happened in other cities is a board is created at a certain point in time, and then new office holders come in and it's maintained, but it's no longer funded. And so some of the mechanics in terms of how the board works are still being worked out, but those are, some of the pillars that are in the charter amendment that will serve as the backbone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Wyman.
Yes, so the ballot language is approved by the council. The committee doing? I mean, basically voting on something that we don't know what it.
Commissioner Wyman, your audio is breaking up. Could you try once more?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll try this again. I did get a little thing said it was unstable.
Okay.
So the ballot language has already been approved by City Council. Is that correct?
Yes, it has been.
So what is the steering committee actually doing?
The work group that I mentioned?
Yes.
The work group is working on details like the number of members, the terms, some of the mechanics of the board. The language that was used in this is similar to other commissions like the Recreation and Parks Commission or the Health Commission that the city has set up in terms of the level of specificity about what the board is. A lot of those other details are worked out, but are not part of the charter itself. So the work group continues to work on
voting. So you're asking people to vote on something that they know none of the details about, because none of the details have been worked out.
I don't believe that it's accurate. None of the details have been worked out. It would establish a Civilian Review Board and an independent inspector general with subpoena powers and the ability to recommend discipline. The number of members isn't decided at this point, but I think it's, I would disagree with the premise that none of the details are worked out.
Well, is board members, any of the civilian board members have? Is that any language that's on the ballot?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Well, the board members have background checks. Is that in the ballot language?
I don't believe that's in the ballot language.
What type of training will the board members have? Is that in the ballot language?
That is something that the Civilian Review Board work group would be taking community input on.
So that's not in the ballot language.
What type of training they would receive?
Right. I mean, what type of training are they going to receive? Are they going to receive training on Garrity, for example?
I don't believe that's in the language, but I could double check. Again, these are details that we're seeking community input from with the Civilian Review Board work group.
Well, I think if you were seeking community input tonight, Steve, I think you've received a heaping spoonful. I would encourage Commissioner Wyman to follow up with an email. And if we could see that email, I know that what was stated in your brief presentation has probably conjured up a lot of questions, but unfortunately we are behind in our agenda. So we'll go ahead and conclude this, and I would encourage anyone to follow up with an email so that Stephen has an opportunity to address your question.
Happy to follow up, and thank you again for the time this evening.
All right, thank you again. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving a little bit behind schedule. Justin Goodwin, are you here? Justin, are you able to give us a synopsis of the Link Us Northwest Corridor workshop in brevity?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
And in the interest of time, I would be able to share some things on screen, but I'm sensing that maybe we need to make up some time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you, Commissioner White, for inviting me to share information about this exciting initiative called Link Us. I also want to thank you, as well as Commissioner Votero, for taking part in our recent focus group workshops as we're beginning the public engagement process for the Northwest Corridor study. So Link Us is a partnership between the City of Columbus, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, MORPC, and COTA, the Central Ohio Transit Authority. We have launched this as an implementation initiative building on a number of years worth of foundational planning efforts around growth and mobility in Central Ohio. Perhaps some of you have heard of MORPC's Inside 2050 effort that they led a few years ago. And it began a regional community conversation about what the next 30 some years of growth should look like throughout Central Ohio. And we know that we continue to grow. All of our neighborhoods are experiencing this in recent years. And we're projected to add perhaps up to 1 million additional people in Central Ohio over the next 30 years to grow to a region of about 3 million people by 2050. So the question is, where are people going to live and how are they going to get around? And we know that as we continue to grow, we need more transportation options. And we do know that our growth patterns are changing. We expect less and less outward suburban growth and more infill development within the established areas of the city. So we know that we need to accommodate that in economically sustainable ways and environmentally sustainable ways, and do that in a way that's providing opportunity for the people that live in our neighborhoods today and who will live in them in the future and need access to quality housing and quality jobs. So building on Insight 2050 and also on the next phase of Insight 2050, which MORPC led in partnership with the Urban Land Institute and the City of Columbus and many other jurisdictions in the region. Last year, the Insight 2050 Corridor Concepts work that was released with a study that focused on a series of potential high capacity transit corridors moving through the city and adjacent jurisdictions, and looking at the potential for sustainable growth patterns, more compact walkable development patterns coupled with mobility investments like transit. And those were model corridors intended to establish an understanding of what we could achieve if we really strategically invest in our mobility infrastructure with coordinated growth. Also, a few years ago, COTA led their next gen planning process and it looked at a variety of potential high-capacity transit lines throughout the region. And some of those lines included the Northwest Corridor, and that's the first implementation study that we have launched this year, and that I'll talk a little bit more about here, as well as West Broad Street. East Main Street has been considered, as well as East Broad Street for high capacity transit improvements, as well as a variety of other corridors. As the corridor concepts work was unveiled last year, a lot of excitement grew around advancing a funding partnership for a first implementation study around the Northwest Corridor. So that essentially is the 315 Olentangy River Road Corridor. From downtown, ultimately the long-term vision is a transit connection from downtown to the city of Dublin. This first phase of study that we're focused on right now in this project, led by the city in partnership with MORPC and CODA, as well as private funding partners like Nationwide and Ohio Health, and Ohio State as a major stakeholder, of course, along the corridor, is focused on an initial connection from downtown to Bethel Road and Broad Street specifically to Bethel Road. So we're primarily focused on the area west of the river, but obviously Clintonville does fall on the edge of this study area. And I do want to note, I'm joining you from my home office in Beachwald, actually. So I'm a Clintonville resident. And apologies also, I didn't give you my title. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager for the City of Columbus, Justin Goodwin, and also the project manager for the Northwest Corridor effort and the city's project lead for the Link Us initiative. So we're undertaking a technical study of what mobility in the future of the Northwest Corridor should look like. And that is, it's multifaceted. So I've mentioned transit a couple of times. That is a core element of this initiative. How do we invest in a level of premium transit service that Central Ohio hasn't seen yet today in the region? So things like transit operating in its own dedicated running way. It could be bus rapid transit, similar to what other cities have. We do have the C-Max on Cleveland Avenue in Columbus, but we're talking about a next level up of transit service. And we're also looking at light rail as a potential future mode. But it's not just transit, it's also how do we improve traffic flow more generally through the corridor, and how do we improve the safety of bicycle and pedestrian travel to this corridor. As we have throughout the region, there are a variety of challenges with east-west movement for all modes of travel, given the issues with crossing the river, crossing 315 in this circumstance. So we're looking at a variety of connections, both east and west, as well as north and south. So we've been undertaking technical studies, understanding the existing conditions in the corridor over the first part of this year. We had been hoping to get to public engagement much earlier this year, but of course, COVID threw a wrench in our plans, but now we are moving into our public engagement phase. And so the focus groups that I mentioned, that a couple of your commissioners took part in recently, along with representatives from other neighborhoods throughout the corridor, Fifth by Northwest, the Northwest Area Civic Association, Franklinton as well, as we look to a better connection down to Broad Street and the Franklinton corridor, as well as various employers along the corridor, mobility providers and advocates, workforce development and social service providers. We've taken a pretty broad view of who has an interest in this corridor. It's a corridor of regional significance. And I know that a number of residents in Clintonville are really interested and are users of the corridor, travel through it and to it, whether it's to the Olentangy Trail or commuting on 315 or to destinations along Olentangy River Road or further along Bethel Road or Henderson Road. So we really want to hear from everybody who has an interest in this corridor, in this study. We do have a survey that I'd encourage everybody to take if you visit our website at linkuscolumbus.com. There's a survey for the Northwest Corridor there right now, and that will be open through the remainder of this month. So I encourage you all to to go and check that out. Let us know your thoughts on the future of mobility and growth in the Northwest Corridor. You can learn more about the Link Us initiative more broadly. We've published what we call a framework strategy with a series of regional goals, reinforcing the importance of equity and how we grow and provide mobility options in sustainability and innovation and economic development, workforce development, affordability. All of these things are important to everyone in the region. And they're really critical as we think about future mobility investments, changes to our infrastructure, and how we get people around and how we do that safely. I also want to note that we have launched our Vision Zero initiative for the city of Columbus, and that is has a broad goal of eliminating all serious and fatal traffic related accidents and crashes. There are no accidents, actually, there are crashes, and we want to eliminate all of those. And so that's an aligned effort with the Link Us initiative as well. So there are surveys on the city's website for Vision Zero as well. I encourage everybody with an interest in safe mobility to let us know your thoughts and your specific areas of concern. I also want to note, I mentioned West Broad Street and corridors on the east side. CODA is soon to be launching an east-west corridor, so that will focus on West Broad Street and connection, high capacity transit connection through downtown to the east side of Columbus. And we'll be looking at how that integrates with the Northwest Corridor. So again, providing these pieces of a bigger puzzle. This is about building a regional system of mobility that connects all of our neighborhoods and provides sustainable means of transportation in the future as we do add more people, even with growth perhaps slowing down a little bit because of COVID-19. We know that Columbus is a hot market in the Midwest. We're becoming a bigger and bigger city, and we need to think differently about our infrastructure investments. That really is what Link Us is about. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I invite you to visit the website at linkascolumbus.com. There's background information on the Northwest Corridor, some of the early technical work that we've done. You can read what we call our foundations report that identifies the issues and the needs and some of the early opportunities that we're seeing in the Northwest Corridor. Again, take that survey, sign up for our newsletters on the website. And we'll keep you apprised as we move through the next phases of public engagement as we develop alternatives for various modes of transportation. We'll be bringing those out to the public later in the fall. So this is just the beginning of public engagement. There's more to come. With that, happy to answer any questions. And again, encourage you to visit our website at linkascolumbus.com and take that first round of public survey.
I had a question. Maybe not a question, but like a comment. So hi, Justin. I wanted to, it's kind of maybe personal in nature where I'm fitting this in under the conversation, but I'm hoping that as this goes along and you look at the analysis and flow of mobility in the area and the Northwest Corridor as it applies to congestion at knots and other issues, to not overlook the infrastructure with regards to like stormwater runoff and things, just in terms of the way that we're dealing with it in Clintonville. And I'm sure you've seen the stories on West Tulane and other places where,
yes,
we're being told this is so unusual and it's a, once in a lifetime type rain event. And then all of a sudden it happens a month later. So I'm finding that some of the things that may have been able to be foreshadowed 10, 20 years ago, if they would have just upsized something, that it would alleviate problems, just in terms of, especially anybody that's gone around Riverside Hospital when it's raining. And sometimes, I've seen vehicles spin out in front of me. So just in terms of if that opportunity presents itself, to maybe, keep that in mind.
Certainly, I appreciate that. And I do want to note, I mentioned growth being part of this. So while we're very much focused on mobility, we call this a mobility corridors initiative. That's also coupled with strategic development recommendations as well. So thinking about that sustainable development design, so both on the infrastructure side and on the private development side, and taking that big picture view. So things like green infrastructure and making sure that it all fits together definitely is an objective of this initiative.
Justin, I have just a quick question. I just want to know for informational purposes for my constituents, is this under the plan? And I've read a little bit of MORPS's future plans, and whether it's 10 or 20 years down the road, is revisiting that very controversial Bethel Morse Road connector.
So yeah, that has come up. I've seen it in some of our initial survey responses.
And just so you know, that would take out our Attorney General's house that he just built.
Yeah. So I'm noting it has come up as a question, but that has not been a focus of our effort, and it's not been identified as an objective. So as you're asking the question, and some others have as well, we may have to be prepared to discuss that if there are members of the community that want to discuss that. But that is not on the Department of Public Services radar as a specific infrastructure improvement to advance at this time.
Well, if you'll just be aware that it is on MORPS's plan. I think it's on a long-term plan, but a few months ago, someone had passed out something. I know Jim and I looked at it and kind of elbowed each other, but I think it's in a 10 or 20 year plan. I didn't know if that had been accelerated.
I think I can clarify. I will also go back and confirm this, but I believe you're referring to MORPS's Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or the MTP, that was recently updated. They do that every 4 years. So it's now been updated to the 2050 planning horizon. One of my roles is to review all of both our city initiated infrastructure recommendations for transportation improvements that get folded into that plan. There's also a public comment period. Anybody can submit essentially any idea. I do know that the Morse Bethel connector was one of those publicly submitted potential ideas. I am almost 100% positive that was removed from the final plan, but I will follow up and confirm that for you.
That would be great.
I do not believe that it is in the adopted MTP, but I will follow up to confirm.
Thank you very much.
All right, if we have any more questions for Justin, I do have Justin's email. I'll share with everyone at the conclusion of this meeting, and I'm sure that Justin will follow up in a timely manner. Thank you so much for being here, Justin.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate you, and thank you for your good work.
Have a good evening.
All right, let's turn it over to Stephen Hardwick, Chair of our Clintonville Area Commission Zoning and Variance Committee.
Yes, we voted on, we had 3 variances before us. We ended up voting on 2 of them and tabling with the applicant's approval. The third one, the first one was 3389 Calumet Street, BZA 20068. They want to attach their existing garage to their house, but because of that attachment, they are no longer subject to the garage setback. They're subject to the house setback, which means that they want to reduce that side yard setback from 5 foot to 4 feet. This was a recommended approval by a vote of 9-0 because it's not changing what the neighbor is seeing, and it seems kind of silly to make them tear down their garage just to move it 1 foot away to attach it to their house. And that's the end of my report on that one.
Hardwick, are the applicants here? I believe Rebecca is here. Jeff, Rebecca?
We are here, thank you. Additionally, our architect, John Eberts, is here as well. So I got a full representation.
Okay, fantastic. Is there anything that you'd like to say on your behalf to the commission?
Sure. I think Stephen did a wonderful job summarizing. It's just an existing detached garage that we would like to connect to our house with an addition to improve our living space. It won't change any setback or any further violation on our neighbor's property or anything like that. It won't change really the view from the street whatsoever. It's all tucked behind the house. So we're just asking for the ability to move forward by connecting the garage to an existing, or connecting the home to an existing garage space.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone on the commission who has a question for the applicant?
I had one comment, and I'm sure some of you may predict exactly what I'm going to say. I was just taking a look at the garage, the detached garage, in terms of the setback from the property line. And it looks as though that the setback was from the face of the wall of the garage to the property line. And in some interpretations on the issue, the setback is taken from the overhang of the gutters and the roof. So specific to this issue, I wanted to mention section 3332.28 sentence E. And basically it talks about the required side yard being from the grade to the sky unobstructed, with an exception for private detached garage. But once it's not a detached garage anymore, then my understanding is that it applies. So I'm not necessarily saying that you're all messed up on your application or anything, but in the sense, in the possibility that when it's in front of the BZA and they mention something like that, they may have a discrepancy or pushback on what specifically the side yard is. But as far as it being unchanged from what's existing, I don't think there's an issue. But I wanted to mention it just in case it does come up that it's not a surprise.
Jim, could I add? It's kind of cloudy there too, because cornices and architectural details are
Right.
allowed to impede into that area. So you can look at it, I guess, two different ways. Some clarity would be helpful, I guess, in the future.
Right. Yeah. And the reason it's sometimes people have mentioned that I say this a lot. The only reason I'm saying it is not necessarily because I oppose it. It's more for the sense that, when you go to a BZA and there's a big meeting and they want to run through an agenda really quickly, and then all of a sudden they throw something at you that you might be unexpecting, especially when someone doesn't have an architect or they're doing it themselves. I want to make a mention of it just so that, there can be some discussion and understanding, some foreshadowing of that, coming up.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for the response.
Good point, Commissioner Garrison. We do act as an advisory role, so anytime that we can give advice to an applicant to set them up for success, it's always good to assert that advice. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? All right. Checking my email to see if there's any community input. And nothing. Checking the YouTube channel. And there are no comments on the YouTube channel either. Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor to vote to decide the fate of this variance request?
I move.
All right. Okay, I think we got a simultaneous first and second there. All right. District 1.
Yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Oh, yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and District 9 does vote to approve your variance request. We'll have that standardized recommendation form to you by Monday. And we wish you the best of luck on your project.
Thank you for
Very
all.
much appreciated. Thank you. And I know, yeah, sorry, John, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank everybody's for their time and attention to our community. Clintonville's a great place and remains to be, remains to improve, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for your patience, albeit we were running a little bit late in our agenda. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Okay, next on the agenda, Chair Hardwick.
Thank you for having us on, and I echo.
Okay. I think someone disappeared. Well, I'll start in case, oh, there she is.
Oh, no. Oh, were you talking to me? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Rebecca, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Oh, my apologies. I was just echoing John's, thanks to the commission for consideration of our variance. And only because Monday is a holiday, I just wanted to clarify, do you think it would transfer on Tuesday? The city of Columbus has their agenda meeting set. They need it by Tuesday. So only
Yes.
reason I'm asking is because we're on a holiday.
No, that you were 100% correct. It slipped my mind. I have COVID head. I apologize.
No,
not thinking
you're
of
fine.
the holiday right now. So yes, right there.
Okay, wonderful. We really appreciate it. Then we'll make it on to the City of Columbus zoning and variance meeting for their September meeting. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And before we leave that, might suggest maybe our neighborhood liaison could see if we get clarification from the city on how the city actually does measure the setbacks of garages, whether the overhangs count, because if they really, if Commissioner Garrison's reading is correct, it seems like they're approving a lot of long-term problems.
I will send an email to Tony Calabrese and ask him.
Thank you. That'd be helpful for the committee to know too.
Yeah, if they can give an official kind of interpretation of the code section and side yard obstructions relative to eaves and overhangs, that would be ideal.
Thank you. Moving on to the Arden Road, 516 Arden Road, BZA 20061. This is for to decrease the side yard setback from 25% to 23.4%, to increase the allowed garage height from 15 feet to 21 feet, to decrease the side yard setback for a detached garage from 3 feet to 0.3 feet, which maintains the existing setback. I did receive notes from all the immediate neighbors supporting this. This is, they're doing an addition on their house. The parts that not relevant to the variance where they're trying just to make it so that they can live there and retire there and have what they need on the first floor of their house. They are planning to put a tiny studio on the second floor of the garage. They do want to put in cooling and heating and a toilet and a sink, which the city has always allowed. I think after corresponding with Commissioner Minister corresponded with the city, and now what the city is insisting upon is they don't want any sleeping area. They used to say no kitchen area, now it's no sleeping area, and they are insisting on an affidavit from the owner stating that they won't turn it into a sleeping area. It did, unfortunately, I think, get tied up into a larger debate about whether in the future it might be wise to allow people to have small apartments over their garages. That was as much my fault as anyone's, and I regret doing that. And I apologize to the owner for sucking you into that discussion when I probably should not have, because this really is a small variance. The neighbors don't have a problem with the existing setback, and I don't think the commission has ever turned down a 21-foot garage. There was a motion to approve. It was recommended approved by a vote of 6-3. Several of the members were concerned that future owners might cheat and try to turn it into an apartment. And I put all their explanations in the minutes, or in the draft minutes. And my comment on that was I didn't think it was fair to punish existing owners for possible cheating in the future. And so that's our report. I guess my suggestion is that this is not, the applicant can give the exact amount of walkable space in the ceiling. It is not much. I would never want to live there. But we recommended approval 6-3. Thank you. That's the end of my report on that.
Thank you, Chair Hardwick. I appreciate that. And are the applicants here? I see Eric. Right, fantastic. Eric, is there anything that you'd like to say on behalf of your variance request to the commission?
No, I think Stephen covered pretty much everything. I think the one variance he said in the beginning, he said side yard, but I think he meant rear yard. We're asking for a rear yard reduction from 25 to a 2-foot reduction to the rear yard for that first floor owner suite, again, to allow them to live in, to age in place there. I think everything else was pretty well covered.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's go ahead and hear from the commissioners. Do we have any questions for our applicants? Please raise your hand. Any questions for Mr. Maxwell? Okay, all right. Do we have a motion on the floor to vote to recommend approval for Mr. Maxwell's variance request?
So moved.
In a second?
I'll second.
Very good. District 1,
Yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyman, can you say that one more time? Is that thumbs up or down?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bolton, did you get that on record? Okay, all right. District 8.
BJ, oh, sorry.
District
Go
8.
ahead.
Yes.
All right, and District 9 too votes yes.
BJ, could I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, I of course emailed you today the conversation I had with Jamie Fries at Building Services. So I voted no last Wednesday, just in light of previous garage improvements that we had voted no on. So I wanted clarification from Jamie on the whole sanitary sewer issue. And he told me about the affidavit that there wouldn't be any sleeping rooms, which kind of turned my mind towards saying yes, because of course I would want the owners to have space for their hobbies and activities as they age in place. And Jamie seemed to think this affidavit was something that remained with the property and kind of discouraged future use by anyone as like a garage apartment. So we're not turning a single family neighborhood into a neighborhood with duplexes or 2 residences on one lot. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
No, I'm really glad that you've sought that out, and I'm glad that you shared that, because I always wondered if that were ever to occur where somebody would convert that into living space, would it require, well, number one, would this affidavit convey to future homeowners? And number 2, would there be a certificate of occupancy that would be required for living quarters? So I've always been curious as to know those as well. So I appreciate you performing a little bit of pragmatism and due diligence.
Thanks,
Okay.
BJ.
Commissioner Weatherholt.
Yeah, just I wanted to say several years ago we had gotten a definition of it that Stephen mentioned, which was no kitchen. And so it looks like perhaps the city has adjusted things or changed their definition of what they say is habitable space also. So it's good to have that.
Okay, well, congratulations, Eric. We wish you the best of luck in your journey, and we will have that standard recommendation form to you as soon as possible, Tuesday morning at the latest.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right, we appreciate you. All right, Chair Hardwick, back to you.
Now, the last variance on our agenda is 3369 Indianola, BZA 2006. It's the business owner wants to, he's asking for a variance at to reduce the required parking from 26 to 17 spaces. He wasn't present, so I called him. It turns out he just hadn't been checking his emails and didn't notice that he had the meeting tonight. Given that his BZA, he missed the BZA cutoff to have a September hearing at BZA, he accepted our suggestion to table it, but we did accept comment from one of the neighbors there. For the neighboring businesses, they basically supported it as long as the new business doesn't use their parking. And that's very clear, two things. They supported it generally, but didn't want them using their parking, which he wouldn't. I had a chance to, the city has actually suggested that they would like an even greater variance down to 16 spaces to allow for some more green screening. He did say that he has, and he sent me later and I forgot the exact number of spaces, but it's around 10, but he has a signed parking agreement for around 10 spaces from across the street. So it seems like he's doing everything right. He said he wants to he's been working there in the AT&T shop. I can't remember whether he owns it or not, but he's always wanted to do a small carry out, and that's what he's planning on putting into there. With this consent over the phone, we voted unanimously to table it to next month. But I wanted the commissioners to have a preview of what's happening there.
Okay, so we will be anxious to hear a little bit more from Mr. Permetti at our October meeting. So thank you for privying us to a preview of that. We appreciate that, Chair Hardwick. All right, I believe we've got David Hodge here to talk to us about, did you want to make an introduction to this, Stephen, or should we just go ahead and hand it over to David?
I think just hand it over to him.
All right.
I've done my part.
All right, thank you, Chair Hardwick. All right, David Hodge with Underhill and Hodge LLC to discuss in follow-up to the crest. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. David Hodge with Underhill and Hodge here this evening on behalf of the Crest ownership. And I most certainly should have been here months ago, but a colleague of mine who I think a lot of you know, Katarina Carrick, was handling this project. Katarina was out on maternity leave, had her baby, decided to move to Chicago. So I have been more than just a little bit discombobulated trying to pick up some of the things that she was helping me with and get organized. But finally, I'm back here tonight. Hopefully I'm organized enough. I guess we'll know in a little bit. So Crest, I think as most of you know, would like to do a greenhouse out along Indianola in front of their restaurant. The greenhouse is to grow herbs and produce and things that the chef would incorporate into dishes that are prepared in the restaurant. As a part of this request, there are two variances necessary. One is to the building setback to accommodate the greenhouse. It is to reduce the setback at Indianola from a requirement of 40 feet to 1 foot, and to reduce the setback at Crestview to 10 feet. We also have a parking reduction. This is a little bit of an interesting code quirk, but they are requiring that we consider the greenhouse space as restaurant space. It's 1,560 square feet, which is 21 spaces. So our request is to increase the parking reduction here from the previous parking reductions that have been approved by an additional 21 parking spaces. Lots of questions. This is here tonight with a recommendation of approval from your zoning committee. There were some questions that came up. I don't know if Mr. Vatero, who is in this ward, wants to discuss those questions. I think the majority of them were raised by him. There were some questions about why and whether we needed to actually calculate this as restaurant when that's not really what it is. I would be thrilled to death if we could classify it as something other than restaurant, because my parking variance would be much smaller, but the city is telling us that that's what we need to do. And so that's why we're doing it that way. There were some questions about the urban design considerations. Planning staff sort of generally said that they support kind of framing the edge of Indianola with this greenhouse. And I think there were some questions about whether or not that was appropriate. Hopefully that question has been satisfactorily answered. Another question, because this building is at a reduced setback at the intersection, about whether it created a safety issue or sight lines would be inhibited. A little bit of an update there. In your package, you have a sightline exhibit that was provided by the architectural firm at Tim Lai's office. We have since, per the city's request, had that prepared by a civil engineer at Advanced Civil Design. If folks want to see that, I can screen share here and pull that up. But it does show that we are not encroaching into the safe sightline here at the intersection. There were also some discussions about whether we should revisit the good neighbor agreement with UCAN. And as I've been sitting here listening to your meeting, I reread that good neighbor agreement. It's my sense that there's enough in there that we ought to, at least for the time being, leave that in place. I think that's what's on the screen now, but certainly open to some discussion about whether or not that needs to remain in place. But I don't know, it seems to me that there are some commitments in there that Crest should certainly abide by, remains willing to abide by. And I think at this point in time, they are perfectly comfortable leaving that as is. The purpose of this greenhouse, it's not going to have restaurant seating in it. That's not to say that a patron wouldn't go in there occasionally and pick this, that, or the other to go into their meal, but it's not going to be restaurant seating, not going to be daily used by patrons of the Crest. Hopefully I've done an adequate job here of answering previously unanswered questions and providing the gist of what Crest would like to do here. And I'll stand by to listen to comments and do my best to answer questions.
All right, I think I'd like to hear first from Commissioner Vatero. This is in your district, correct?
Yeah, it is. And I want to thank David. I had sent him some questions and kind of a lengthy email that I sent out. And I know David's been on vacation. He's had, a staffing issue that he mentioned where Katrina had left, or Katerina had left. And so I think we had a little time to look into this. He did provide feedback. I'd had the opportunity to reach out to the city's planning staff, the Division of Transportation, parking, ask some of these questions, get some feedback from them. I continue to have some reservations about the urban design characteristics of this, and that the city is supporting this, saying it's consistent with the neighborhood plan. That's a matter of opinion. I find it difficult to say that a building that is 1 foot off the sidewalk or off the property line on Indianola and has no entrances at all on the street is really, a building that's engaged with the street. I think the idea of the urban overlay and bringing buildings up to the street line is to get them engaged with the sidewalk when there's no entrances, when there's no way that the building's really interacting, I'm not sure that's particularly effective urban design. But if the owner wants to build this building, I'm not particularly opposed to it. I think David and his team have looked into the sightline considerations, which were brought up to me by a number of constituents that were a little worried that maybe there would be an issue with not really being able to see at the corner. I think between the civil engineering firm that they've reached out to do the sightline study and look at those vision clearances, I think that puts that matter to rest as much as it can be. I continue to be a little bit concerned about the matter of noise. Greenhouses are not really completely benign uses. A growing greenhouse, has to have cooling for the plants. So it most typically uses agricultural prop fans on the sidewalls and pulls air through the building, and those make quite a bit of noise. And if this building is just a couple feet away from the neighboring property that has an open front porch, I'm not sure I would want that, that close to me. I think I would be bothered if I were that property owner. They haven't expressed any particular concerns about this. I continue to be a little concerned about the noise that either fans or a more conventional cooling system like you might have associated with a building, if you're thinking of this as maybe more of a conservatory space where there's people and you're trying to cool the space for people, there's still a big piece of cooling equipment outdoors that's kind of running and growling away. And if you look at the site plan, there's kind of no place to put that except, again, right next door to somebody with an open porch. So the noise consideration, I think, is kind of an issue. But if it's the Crest's desire to do this, the one thing that I would ask for the commission is if we approve this and are supportive of the request for the variances, I would like to be very certain that we condition our support on the fact that they absolutely do not have any seating, any tables, any service in this building on a regular basis. I accept David at his word that the idea is that this is a growing place and that people may go in there to see what's going on and kind of be part of the experience, and that's fine. But the city's review of the parking and the 21 spaces that are asked for as a reduction, they've really taken the applicant at their word that this is more of a factor of the zoning department, the zoning staff saying, well, you need to ask for this. And when I did talk to the parking staff with the city, they said they completely stepped back on this because of that word that came down from the zoning staff, that really this was a procedural thing, as David described, and that this really wasn't going to have a parking impact. So they didn't require a parking study. They didn't require a parking survey of the existing parking. I want to point out to the other commissioners that this one business and this one location is one of the very, very few spots in Clintonville that has permit parking. And the permit parking here, which is area D, I think it is solely because of this business. It's not a combination of different businesses, and it predates the Crest. To be fair to the Crest, the parking permit area predates them as part of the Crest Tavern, but it's one of the few areas in Clintonville. It may even be the only area that has permit parking. And the city chose not to require a study, even though there's a demonstrated problem with on-street parking and the compatibility with this business. This business has already received 2 different parking variances. I think they received one in 2011 for 16 spaces and a second one in 2013 for an additional 15 spaces. And this is also partly because of the consideration they gave. They have 25 spaces leased at Xenos Christian Fellowship School, which is the old Calumet school down by the ravine, which is a good long ways away. And I think that lot may work effectively as a remote lot for employees if they're required to park there, and it may work effectively as a staging area for valet, but it really doesn't do anything to alleviate the casual visitor to the restaurant who's simply looking for a parking space. They're not going to drive the 2,400 feet to Xenos school and park there any more than somebody who comes to our meetings regularly would accept, well, you're not allowed to park at the library. You have to park at Kemba, or you have to park down at the Wendy's. That's about as far away as the Xenos place is. So there really is kind of a critical parking issue surrounding this site and this business. So I would ask that if we support this variance application, and I am supportive of it, but I would like it to be conditioned on that they do not provide seating, they do not provide tables, they do not provide service in the greenhouse, which is what they've stated in their application. I don't want to misstate that, but I think you've said that in the application, David.
Yes, sir.
I would like to make our approval conditional upon that, so that the BZA understands that we think that needs to be tied directly to the variance, that the BZA can insert that as a condition. We can only ask them to, but I think we should ask them to.
Thank you, Commissioner Votero. I really appreciate that input. Very well thought, well organized, and we will add that to our vote with your suggestion as the prevailing area commissioner for that district. Is there any other questions from the commissioners for this applicant? Commissioner Bolton.
Thank you. I realize we're running short on time. I'll be as brief as possible. Thank you, Mr. Hodge, for being here. I appreciate your presentation. I think you mentioned an updated piece of information from the civil engineer about the sight lines at the corner and offered to screen share. And I don't want to belabor the point, but that is probably my biggest concern, just having been in that area a lot and driven up to that corner and biked around that corner and walked around it with my family. I am a little concerned about those sight lines, so I would love to be able to see that if you're okay with us spending another moment on that question, Chair White.
Is that okay to do?
Do you want me to do it? It might, if you're ready to screen share, you have.
Yeah, as long, I just didn't want to hopscotch the agenda or push too much forward.
You able to see this okay?
Yes.
It looks like a loading Outlook at the moment. It looks like it's loading.
Tells me I'm screen sharing, so hopefully it'll pop up there.
Well, you are screen sharing. It's just there's no document yet. It just shows an email home screen.
I don't know. I will try to save this on my desktop and see if that helps, because I brought it up out of an email.
It looks as though you may have your Outlook window as the active screen share window.
Would you like me to try, David?
Let me give it one more shot here. Any better?
Yes, I think we're cooking with gas now. Thank you, David.
Happy to blow that up if anybody needs me to.
Yes, please.
This actually is out of the engineer's office. As of late this afternoon, they said that they said a few things, that it couldn't be done by an architect. It needed to be sealed by a civil engineer, and that we had previously assumed the wrong speed limit. They told us what speed limit we had to assume. And so this came out of from a traffic engineer at Advanced Civil Design named Mark Mann this afternoon.
And how, I'm sorry, I don't have the previous version in front of me. How has this, can you walk us through how this has changed from the previous version? I understand the speed limit discrepancy. Is there an improved sightline then assumed with those changes?
It doesn't, it just shows that the building does not inhibit the sightline, which is also what the architect's exhibit showed, but they had us just adjust the speed limit based upon their initial request. I guess we had it wrong initially. And make sure it was sealed by a civil engineer.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to pull that up.
What the speed limit is for?
They had us, they had us do 40, I believe is what they said in their email.
40. Ooh.
40.
Where's the stop sign on this diagram? Where's the stop line?
Are you able to see my mouse?
Yeah, that almost looks like it's in the intersection.
Do you see the car there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no civil engineer.
Okay, I guess I don't have any follow-up questions. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
David, is there a way you could just forward that document just so we have it? I can keep a record on tonight's actions. I appreciate that you shared that.
Will do. And let me just also say, Mr. Votero, I appreciate the work you've done to push us to provide the additional information. I mean, I think this is absolutely your role as an area commissioner and your role as the district leadership here. And so, we absolutely want to have this right. I think that, Crest came in hot. I think it's been described at one point in this process as being, among the most popular restaurants in the city of Columbus. That is certainly cooled down now. I know that Crest had a lot of work to do with Clintonville to prove itself. I think they've done that work, and they are, I believe, by and large, a revered and highly regarded kind of institution in the neighborhood. They pride themselves on that. They did not enjoy the initial experience, and they work very hard to cross T's and dot I's and to get this stuff right. And hopefully we're doing that here. But if I'm leaving any work undone or anything unsaid, then I ought to be held accountable for that. And hopefully we've been responsive and provided the information requested.
Yeah, I want to thank you for providing the additional data, taking the time to kind of do the research and provide the answers. You're absolutely right. I've lived around the corner from the Crest for over 30 years, and I've really seen the arc of the history of this. I was a resident before the Crest came online, and when the Crest Tavern was kind of a classic dive bar, to be kind to it. It might be a place that you might have been embarrassed to almost be seen going into. And they have become wildly successful. That they're really were at their apex just after opening, probably the most popular destination in Central Ohio. And the attitude in the neighborhood has been, I think, very supportive. Initially, there were some real growing pains with the neighborhood getting used to the popularity of the restaurant. I think we tried to be patient with the restaurant, and I think they did do a good job. We negotiated the Good Neighbor Agreement years ago, and I'm glad to see that you've kind of sort of redoubled your commitment to it. I think that's a good step towards maintaining good relationship with the neighbors. And I think everybody in the neighborhood now, I think now that it's a mature business, I think many of the neighbors, many of the new residents who come to South Clintonville, in fact, were introduced to the neighborhood because of the crest. That was their first experience with the neighborhood and one of the motivating reasons for them to move to the neighborhood. So the crest has really become a great part of the neighborhood. They are good corporate citizens. If this is part of their, their necessary growth to be a stable, ongoing business, then we want to see this happen. I wanted to make sure that it doesn't come at the expense of maybe either any safety concerns or quality of life issues with any of the neighboring properties. So I think you've done a lot to help assuage those fears, and I'm hopeful that we can support this with the conditions that we do attach a caveat to our approval that there's no serving, no seating, and no tables. And I think that's consistent with the way the project's been presented to us and the city throughout. So I don't want to raise the bar or change it, but I think that's the way it's been presented. I just want to be consistent with that in terms of our approval tonight, that we make our conditional approval.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the condition. And one other thing I want to say, and then I'm going to stop talking and let's ask another question. As I mentioned, this civil engineer sightline exhibit is hot off the press, out of advanced civil design this afternoon. If for any reason the city traffic management people take exception to this exhibit, then we won't go to BZA and we'll come back and see you.
David.
Yes. Oh, the other David?
I think we've lost BJ.
The chair got kicked off. Oh, no.
Yeah. David, you are vice chair.
Well, since we have this opportunity and I don't want to take up more time, I did want to mention something, and I could always follow up with BJ if necessary for her information, but this shows a good example of a kind of reevaluation by the city of properties that I've experienced myself, where you have something that's been around for a long time, you make a relatively minor change, which requires it to go back to the city in terms of permitting or oversight review, such as this greenhouse, which isn't a conditioned space, doesn't have seating, to David's point, isn't going to be part of the restaurant, but yet now we have square footage and you're being reevaluated for a parking requirement and held to a higher standard. So, I kind of have opposition to that, but it's a good thing to understand that in my conversations with Jamie Freeze is sometimes these applications serve as an opportunity for the city to double check how things have evolved over tens of years. So dumpster enclosures still compliant, sight lines, screening of the parking, number of parking spaces, things of that nature. So, I just wanted to point out that this seems to be a good case as an example that if we do have other applicants in the future looking to do things, we should be aware that the city may be asking for, kind of the whole gambit of reevaluation of the site compliance process.
They also are beginning to think about totally reviewing the zoning and variance process, or the actual, what do I want to say, conditions. It's been 60 years, I think it is, since all of the zoning and variance stuff has been written. And so that will take a while, but that's, as you say, Jim, it's all coming from modern changes.
Yeah. And I don't know if you see this, Libby, but you are now the host of the meeting. based on
Oh.
what
Yeah.
No, I'm no longer. It's Votero.
Yeah, I think the host has more to do with the connection that you have with it. I think, Jim, you're right. You know, there is a moving sort of bar here, and just as it was pointed out earlier, that the interpretation of what a dwelling unit in a garage has moved from cooking to, you know, the toilet defined it for a while, and now it's sleeping. So the city's kind of characterizations and definitions do change over time. To move us ahead, I don't think BJ has rejoined the meeting.
I just text her, and she has not gotten back to me.
Okay.
I just admitted Catherine. She apparently had gotten booted off also.
Okay. Okay. I hope. I don't want to make a hardship for the applicant. I think if we're able to take a vote tonight, we should. I would like to ask for, I'm going to make a motion that we add the condition to the approval that we're going to require that there be no seating, no serving, no tables. We'll add that to our paperwork that we turn into the city. And I'd like, first of all, to ask that we add that condition.
There she is.
She's back. She's connecting.
Okay. So
for the record, I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, let's fill BJ in on this. There
Yeah,
she is.
BJ?
Yes.
Okay, great. It's good to have you back. To catch you up really quickly, I made a motion that we add a condition to our approval that addresses that there be no serving, no seating, and no tables in the greenhouse. Jim has seconded it. I think we're ready for maybe a vote on adding that as a condition to the approval.
I had that noted in my notepad already. No.
Okay, great. All right, you're ahead of us.
Service. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Can we if there are any questions on the motion, that's fine. Otherwise, I think we're ready for a vote on that.
All right. Do we already have a motion and a second?
Yes.
What exactly are we voting on?
The condition, adding the condition to the approval.
May I ask one more question? I do not want to complicate this. Could we split this into the two variance requests, and this condition will be to the parking approval? Does that?
If that's your preference for the paperwork, sure. Yeah, that's fine. I have no objection to that.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
So you'd like us to vote on the setback variance and then the parking variance as two separate issues. The caveat goes with the sure.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think we'd need to vote on that also.
Yeah, we need to, yeah. So there is a motion on the floor that we split the variances in two. Is there a second? Do I take your notion of support, Commissioner Votero, as a second?
I'll wait for a second. I'm not sure. Is there a reason to split them? I'm kind of ambivalent toward that. I don't know if there's a reason. If it's your preference, I don't want to.
I'm still uncomfortable with the setback, with the understanding of the process and the due diligence that has went to it, and the fact that the traffic staff will also be reviewing it. I'm just not comfortable with the
I'll second your motion. Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Wyman.
I was going to second the motion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead and vote to split the variances. District 1.
Yes.
Okay, District 2. District 3.
No.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Abstain.
District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9, I'll vote yes. All right, so splitting the variances, are we prepared to vote for the first variance to reduce the required parking spaces from 62 to 17?
Point of order.
Yes.
he wanted to add the condition.
Right,
And
I've got it written down here. I'll add it to the condition after I state the variance.
but we need to vote to add it first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that happened when I was away.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, so we are going to vote for the two variances to be split. And do we have a motion on the floor to vote to add the condition of no seating tables or service in the greenhouse?
I move.
I'll
Do we have a
second.
second? Do we have a second for that
I'll
condition?
second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Sorry, Jim Garrison.
All right, thank you. Do we have that for the record, Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to vote for the variances separately with the condition of no seating, tables, or services or service in the greenhouse? Is there a motion on the floor to vote for the first variance with that condition added?
I move to vote.
No, but we haven't voted to add it yet.
Okay.
We've had a first and a
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Weatherholt, you are correct. I stand corrected. So we need to vote to add that condition as stated. No seating, tables, or service in the greenhouse. District 1,
Yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Abstain.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and District 9 too shall vote yes. Are we prepared to vote? Is there a motion on the floor to vote for the first variance to reduce the required parking spaces from 62 to 17, 21 spaces for the greenhouse with the condition of no seating, tables, or service in the greenhouse?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. District 1,
Yes.
2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
No.
District 7,
No.
District 8,
Yes.
District 9 too shall vote yes. All right, we do have the second variance that will be to reduce the minimum building setbacks for the greenhouse from 25 foot to 1 foot along Indianola as shown on the site plan. Do we have a motion on the floor to vote for this variance?
Move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. District 1,
Yes.
2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
No.
District 5,
No.
District 6,
No.
District 7,
No.
District 8,
Sorry,
District,
yes. I was muted.
was that a yes vote?
That was a yes vote. I'm sorry.
Okay. And District 9 too shall vote yes.
What was the total then? I'm sorry.
4 to 4, it's a disapproval.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Splitting the variances, we've reduced the number of required parking spaces and allowed that to occur by popular vote. It doesn't matter because the greenhouse was not approved with the setback. So that's what will be stated on the standardized recommendation form, and we will include the verbiage for the no seating tables or service in the greenhouse for the first variance that did get passed. We'll make sure that that's on there, and we'll get that delivered to the BZA for their consideration. Thank you, Attorney Hodge.
Thank you all.
We'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Okay, have a great night.
All right,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we still have Rachel Martin, the Executive Director of NAMI?
Have Rochelle Martin. I'm still here.
Oh, sorry about that. I apologize. Please forgive me, Rochelle. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. This was very interesting to hear all of this, and I appreciate you, Commissioner White, and the Clintonville Commission. So once again, my name is Rochelle Martin. I am the Executive Director of NAMI Franklin County, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Franklin County. And our mission is we are dedicated to improving the lives of people with mental health conditions, and we do it through a number of ways, through advocacy, education, outreach, support, and referral. Now, what does the ADAM Board do? Their mission is to improve the well-being of our community by reducing the incidence of mental health problems and eliminating the abuse of alcohol and other drugs in Franklin County. The ADAM Board funds 33 provider agencies in Franklin County, and NAMI Franklin County is one of those agencies. ADAM funds prevention intervention services in all 16 Franklin County public school districts. Who do we serve? The ADAM Board provides addiction and mental health crisis services to everyone in Franklin County. Approximately 85% of people who live below the federal poverty level. Now, our challenges. The ADAM is projecting a $14 million operating deficit. And the reason for the deficit is because there has been an increase in services for people living with mental health conditions, and then the opiate pandemic or epidemic crises. Suicide deaths in Ohio have increased 45% over the last decade, and the opiate epidemic has a profound effect on service needs. The population of Franklin County is projected to grow by 8% over the next 10 years. Now, the funding needs. More than 71% of the ADAM Board resources come from the current 2.2 mil property tax levy. Franklin County Board of Commissioners have approved placing a 5-year 2.2 mil renewal levy with a 0.65 mil increase to support ADAM on the November ballot. Issue 24, the ADAM levy will help continue the vital services of ADAM. If passed, homeowners would pay an additional $1.90 per month or $22.75 more per year per 100,000 in home property value. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I will take any questions now if you have any.
First of all, thank you for your patience. We apologize for running late in our agenda, and we did not mean to disrespect your time, and we're sorry to keep you wide-eyed here past the 9 o'clock hour. So
no worries. Thank you very much for listening. And remember that if you want to know more about the levy, please go on our website, theadamlevy.com. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
I'll keep up the good
Commissioner
work.
White,
Thank you.
Thank
may I
you.
mention one thing?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out if Rochelle can mention just one thing. If anyone who's watching or anyone who watches this later does have, you know, on kind of an advocacy level, if they have someone that they know that's in crisis or they do need outreach on their side of things, aside from the levy, is it best to go to the website or is it best to contact a certain person or phone number?
Sure. I would like it very much if you contact NAMI Franklin County, and I take every call and I spend time with them and I get the person the referrals that they need. Our phone number is 614-501-6264. Once again, 614-501-6264. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just like to thank Rochelle, not just for your time tonight, but for your work throughout for Adam. It's a great service. It's a privilege to be able to support the levy. It's a privilege to support Adam in their work. It's critical work, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time with us tonight, but also the work that you do day after day. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Next on the agenda is Aaron Prosser. Aaron, are you there?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes. Did you go out for a cup of coffee? Thank you for hanging in there with us.
No problem at all. I realize I'm at the end of a very long evening for everyone, so I'm going to keep this very brief. I'm going to share a couple of slides and I'm going to share them with Commissioner White so she can distribute them to the community. But I want to primarily just introduce myself. My name is Aaron Prosser. I'm the Director of Community Development for The Ohio State University. And historically, my role has been to engage our community members around developments that the university is doing around our main campus. This year is a little bit different for me because obviously with COVID, there is a little bit of an expansion of our influence around the university, and we wanted to engage some of the other area commissions around main campus. And again, I'm going to share these slides very quickly, but there is the most important thing probably for you guys. Can you see my screen so far?
Yes.
Good. I think the most important thing is, and I'll share this with Commissioner White, but that is my email address. I'm happy to answer any questions as we go throughout fall semester. I'm happy to come back if anybody has any questions or concerns. I'm happy to attend a committee meeting if that would be more productive, whatever makes sense for Clintonville. Just be a resource for you guys. I think I'm going to go through these again very quickly, and I'll share these so you can read through them in greater detail. We do have, as we've gone through the fall semester and preparing for that, obviously the preparation started in May. You can obviously expect what we've been working on. There is a reporting of off-campus student conduct violations website that is active. If folks see student parties or see bars that are not conducting themselves according to CDC guidelines, we absolutely encourage anyone to reach out, and that'll be investigated by the Student Code of Conduct. As I'm sure you guys have read some of the articles that have come out the last couple of weeks. This is also an important website, the safeandhealthyosu.edu. This is an opportunity just to find out more information about what the university is doing and what our plans are. We are doing testing and tracing. We did start off-campus student tracing on this past Monday. I will share that the off-campus positivity rate is right now at 9.66%, which is not where we want it. And we are doing a boatload of work to try and drop that number over the coming weeks so we can stay open and keep our students with us on campus. The other thing that is something that I think everyone will find interesting, we do have a data dashboard that is specific to our OSU students. It deals with our off-campus students, our on-campus students, and then students cumulatively. You can go on this and kind of understand where we are. It's updated as often as humanly possible, which the intention is daily. It's sometimes we get a couple days behind on the off-campus students, but they are working through that, making sure we get that up to date as often as possible. And then finally, what you may see around campus, if you head down our direction, is you may see the What's Your Why campaign. And this is something that if anyone of the Clintonville neighbors has something they would want to share about what's their why, for why they wash their hands, why they wear masks, it's certainly an opportunity for community partners to engage with the university, and we'd love to see that. So again, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible because I know you guys have had a long evening. Commissioner White, I will share this PowerPoint with you. And again, if anyone of you or your neighbors or anyone in the Clintonville community wants access to the university and has questions about what we're doing to keep our students in the neighborhood safe, please, I'm happy to be your contact. And that's really my primary purpose, was just to introduce myself to you guys and make sure that you had my contact information. And I talk very fast, and I'm aware of that. So I'm sorry if that was way too breezy. So, but again, it's really just to open a conversation with you guys and just be a resource as we go through fall semester.
We can appreciate fast talkers. So much. We really appreciate you, Erin. Thank you for your outreach. It's good to have you as a point of contact. And absolutely, we'll continue this two-way conduit, and be happy to contact you in the future if ever we feel we could engage you on anything of great import.
Yep. Let me know. I'm happy to be wherever you need me to be.
Thank you so much, Erin. Have a good rest of your evening. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for hanging in there.
No problem.
All right. Before we motion to adjourn, I'd like to allow Commissioner Wyman to have his moment of open discussion about the committees.
Would you rather me save that for next meeting? I mean, since we're running so late.
So I know that we're now in the second consecutive month of you expressing these concerns. And I think those concerns might best be addressed if you email them to me, and then I could formally make them an item on the agenda, and we can go from that point. But why don't we start with an email to me, and then I can allow that. And the reason I'm saying to me versus to the rest of the commission is because we do have we don't want to engage everybody because of sunshine laws. We don't want to make it a topical discussion unless it's in a meeting forum where the public can attend. So funnel your email to me, and I would be happy to disseminate to the committee chairs on an individual basis, and we can take those concerns to heart and add them to the agenda to be discussed in our October meeting. Does that sound like
That's fine? I can do that.
Okay. That would really help us commit time to address those concerns. Like I said, we're on our second consecutive month of having this as a point of discussion, but we want to make sure to have this as part of an agenda so that we can get your concerns heard. So if that sounds like a fair resolve to you, we'll move forward with that.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. This has been a very productive meeting. I appreciate you all for hanging in there. We ran over 30 minutes. We'd be out in the parking lot if we were at the Whetstone Library. So thank you everybody for burning the midnight oil with us. I appreciate you all. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I'll second.
Thanks everybody. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe and happy.
Thank you.